Hello, hello. Welcome to Leap Taken. This is Mika. Here at Leap Taken, I talk about all things witchy, craft related, law of attraction, manifesting, esoteric, and everything else in between. And today I want to talk about whether or not you think magic is there, if there's such thing as too much magic. Do you think you can do too much? This is something I've thought about over time, especially usually as it relates to other people. That's the irony. Maybe for myself, I always think, am I not doing enough magic? This video is probably going to relate more to people who are already practicing magic somewhat regularly, or if you've taken a hiatus, but probably to those who are probably actually practicing. Um, for me, there's magic in everything I do. I mean, I'm a practicing witch. It's inevitable because it's just how it's my mindset. I'm already going on a tangent and I just started, but to me, the way I approach my type of magic, my type of witchcraft, the way I do spirituality, it has a lot to do with sort of being prepared ahead of time. So having certain crystals already charged, the way that the things that I already purchased that have a magical intention to them from the gate, the type of clothing that I pick out that makes me happy, which raises my vibration, which when I'm working toward manifesting something, I'm already in line with that because I'm already, my vibrations are high. The type of TV shows or any media that I'm intentionally consuming, that also is in alignment with usually whatever agenda I've sort of set for myself, whatever goal I've set for myself. Um, so I'm already at that point where, everything, I mean, I'm not everything, but just about everything that I'm doing has a specific intention to it. I mean, you got to leave room for the universe to work, for happenstance to occur, for just, oddball moments and what people might classify as coincidental type stuff to occur. Basically, the stuff in life that surprises you. But outside of that, yeah, even when I'm talking to people, it has nothing to do with anything witchcraft. Um, I can't help but hear it. I can't help but hear the things that, because I am a practicing witch, I'm going to have a lens that always is sort of magically influenced. If hopefully you get what I mean. I don't know. There's magic in everything I do, so I don't know. But here's what I would say: ask yourself if there's a measurement. What's the measurement to know if you're doing too much magic? How do you even measure that, right? What's the measurement? How do you know? Is it, I mean, I guess you could start to ask yourself other questions. It's a hard question to really even answer. Who decides what's too much? What's the rule? How do we measure that, to even really answer that question? Um, and magic, by the way, is a broad term in itself. For me, it's indicative of spells and rituals, divination, overall witchiness. I don't know. Um, but when I think about it in other religions, if you think about it, and not that I really practice a religion, but I'm just using that term loosely, spirituality, how about that? But in actual religion, they have prayer. They is done daily, sometimes throughout the day, at least before every meal, right? Before you go to bed, when you rise, for a lot of people. Meditation may be encouraged, maybe not necessarily, the Judeo Christian stuff, but the other type of paths. Meditation, or, which is basically a spiritual practice where you're trying to connect with the divine. Um, Even just things like saying, God bless you, you know what I mean? Or praise God. Like I said, saying grace and just, infusing, anytime you're given a compliment, you speak of your God first. Um, I mean, all of these things are acceptable mainstream. And if you do this, I mean, think about it. We probably know people who were like this. And I'm not like criticizing, I'm just saying, do you say there's too much spirituality? Oh, you talk about, your religion too much. You talk about God too much. You know what I mean? Is somebody saying that to them? No, probably not, right? Um, so if you feel like you're doing too much magic, which again, what's the measurement? I would question what I would want to know, what do you mean? Like, what type are you, the things, the examples I just gave, do you feel like you're doing like some witchcraft version of that? Some pagan version of that. Why is that bad? Do you think you're talking about it too much? Talking about it too much is not doing too much magic, or at least I don't think so. I think you're just talking, because you could be talking and never do anything. To me, it's the doing part. For me, I think that if you're constantly having an issue where you can't make a decision without having to consult your cards, consult your guides, or so forth, like, but a decision needs to be made right then and there, and you were just not making these decisions, and it's something your intuition is already telling you to do XYZ, but you don't do it until you read the cards, or you reach out to your spiritual leader or whoever you're working with so they can weigh in first. Well, maybe you, to me, that's not even doing too much magic. To me, that's more of you're having trouble with trusting your higher self, your intuition. Again, that falls under more magic in my book. So you need to do more stuff. You just need to tune it, fine tune it a little bit. Maybe in the beginning you needed somebody to consult with all the time. Maybe you really did need the cards because you were still learning to develop and trust your intuition a little bit more. But, hopefully, if you've been doing this for a while, you don't need to do that anymore. So you can, trust yourself to make a decision for yourself, right? For those who feel like maybe whatever the measurement is that you have, you're not doing enough magic. So I would tell you, start doing morning and nightly rituals. What that looks like, a morning ritual could be already something you already do, except you're doing it with intention. Your cup of coffee, your cup of tea, your shower, the washing of the face, whatever it is that you do, you can make that first part of your morning, or honestly, before you even get to that, just when you open your eyes, before you get out the bed, maybe you say something. There's an affirmation, a phrase, or something along those lines that you want to say first. I would suggest doing that. And at night, kind of in reverse, maybe you want to say something before you, as you lay your head down, make the last thought be some sort of intentional affirmation that connects you to a deity, or just your overall spiritual self, or your spirituality, or your philosophies. That's just doing stuff like that could be super helpful, believe it or not. Practicing magic almost daily. Now be reminded that could be self-care as well. Magic, I don't know, and I'm again a broad term, magic, but that could be anything from I do so many things. I don't think about it. So I'm trying to share from my point of view. And I'm like, I just do so many things. Somebody else might check it out. But like lighting an incense, maybe you light an incense every day, at the start of the day, because you want to set the energy in the house. That's a very magical thing to do, a very spiritual thing to do. Making sure your crystals are right there on your desk, or on your purse, and putting them in your bra, that sort of thing. Sometimes it's more of an up here thing. So, just throughout the day, you say a certain phrasing, like an affirmation, a mantra, or something like that. Not necessarily because you're manifesting something, but more or less because it keeps you aligned at what this state of being you would like to be in, or in a certain frequency or vibration. So you're constantly, at certain points of the day saying this, so you can kind of stay aligned with that. I will say this. I don't think this stuff I just talked about should be limited. I think, fit it in where it makes sense in your life. I need to get on the mindset of doing that a little bit more. Like repeat. I used to do that. I used to repeat a specific mantra at certain points of the day. I think I did it like every hour, every other hour, or something like that. At certain times I had a reminder, and I would just say it like maybe 3 times, sometimes 10 times, sometimes 9 times. There was a significance in the number of times I repeated it, depending on what I was doing. So, by the way, that works. That helps. I mean, you can really influence yourself. You can really change your mindset, and you really can connect with certain frequencies as well. And by doing that, and it's a very intentional practice. You just have to keep doing it. You got to, when you say you're going to do it, you have to do it, and really try not to skip or forget. But that kind of stuff can really work. So like, if you are struggling with feeling like you're inadequate in your witchcraft practices as far as not doing enough, and you're like really busy or you feel distracted all the time, set a reminder on your, I got an Apple Watch, so I could do it here, but on your phone, computer, wherever, someplace you're gonna be drawn to just say maybe a certain type of mantra that aligns to how you maybe want to be. I'm a powerful witch. I'm a powerful witch. I guess those are considered affirmations. I don't know. I get confused sometimes on what affirmations and mantras are. I use those words interchangeably. I know I probably shouldn't, but stay with me. Say something like that, a phrasing of sorts, that inspires you, that motivates you. If you say it that many times, you won't have such a feeling of inspiration every single time, but you still say it anyway. You just keep trying, you keep saying it. It will do something to you. It really does. I don't want to like make light of that. It does help doing that. But however, this vision of witchcraft that you want to attain or you want to exhibit and you want to practice, begin to actually believe it, and then it'll be so. And though that's what you saying that particular whatever phrase you put together, it doesn't have to rhyme. It helps with that. I don't believe I don't believe I can do too much magic. Sometimes I feel like too much time goes by and I haven't done anything, and I feel like, oh, what am I doing? I need to get back to it. So I don't know. For you, those you watching, I don't know. You can only answer that question again. How are we quantifying it? What is the measurement? What tool are we using to measure? The only thing you can go by is how you feel and maybe what other people are telling you about yourself, right? But again, that's not too much of that. To me, you might be sharing too much. Doesn't mean you're doing too much magic. You might feel a certain way, but it's usually in response to something else. So what is that something else? Dig deeper into why you feel that way is usually not because you're doing too much magic. That's just how I look at it. But however, however, with any spirituality, right? You have to do, and I don't care how far along you're in your practice, even myself, we can become jaded. We can become a little misguided, probably more misguided in the beginning. But I think if you've been practicing for a while, you can become misguided because you are paying more. You might get bored with your current practice and you might be really open to other things. I'm somebody, I've been doing this for a long time. So yeah, I get open to other things because I want to learn more. Now, I have a pretty good sense of judgment, and I feel pretty, confident and trusting in myself and what I think is right for me. And some things could be right for the time and not right ongoing. But you could be misguided a little bit, go down a path, and you might get a little further down that path than you needed to before you back out and say, I don't need to be doing this. I don't need to follow this through. And that's sometimes working with certain specific deities, working with certain types of energies, a specific path where you kept going and you probably should have stopped. That can happen to us witches. That happens. And I wouldn't say it's too much. It's more like you spending too much time, maybe energy on something that maybe is not overall beneficial for you. It was okay to be curious. It was okay to gain the knowledge just long enough for you to know, hey, I know it, but I don't want to pursue it. But some of us keep going. Like, I don't know. It's like I've committed to this, so I got to see it through. You don't have to abandon ship. That's okay. There's something else waiting. There's another boat coming. Get off. Try something else. If it's not serving you well, don't stay with it just because you feel like you've committed to it or you've been, and again, I think of like working with a specific goddess or something like that, and you feel like you've been doing it for so long, maybe culturally you feel like you have to continue to follow this specific goddess, but it's not feeding you anymore. Spiritually speaking, you're just not getting what you're supposed to get from that relationship, right? It's okay to let it go. It's all right. Continually to do offerings and continuing to, revere and have ritual and all that sort of stuff and putting that energy. Yeah, that might be too much. That might be too much because, it's not beneficial to you. So, and it stopped being beneficial a long time ago. Remember, it's okay. I have a video from a while ago where I talk about sort of breaking up with a god or goddess. Sometimes you have to break up. Sometimes that relationship is just not working out in the way it was. You can still be friends, but it's time to end the type of relationship that you had with them. It's time to end it maybe. And then you are doing too much, Fear, ego, and ignorance can be the culprit sometimes with a lot of our decisions, even as witches, on why we do some of the things that we do. And at some point, like I said, maybe you're not investing enough, or maybe you are doing too much. Um, I would say think about fear, ego, ignorance. Do any of those play a role before you assume that it's just too much magic that you're doing, or you're too witchy, or it's too much witchcraft, or something like that? Um, a lot of times, let's examine that, and that's where that shadow work comes into play. And it might be time to do another round of that to find out what's really going on. Why am I going back and forth with this? Why am I investing so much time? Why am I not doing enough, or feeling like I'm not doing enough? Why am I avoiding my altar? I won't walk by it, or I rush by it. I won't make eye contact with anything over there. Why am I feeling that way? Maybe you want to go ahead and do a little self-analysis at that point to find out what's really going on. And then finally, I do want to just talk a little, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but I do just want to say this. I use the example of, not being able to make a decision because you keep looking at your cards, going to your tarot cards, your runes, you got to consult with somebody, your spirit guide, a coach, your tarot reader, whatever. Divinatory practices, if you will. There is a such thing as a little too much in that department. Just like there's a such thing as a little too much in the department of spells. And I will say, for me, this is how I would measure it. If I feel like in the moment, if I can't make a decision and feel comfortable, sometimes you're presented with options and none of the options are great and you don't feel good about it, but a decision has to be made. But actually, indecision is a decision, by the way. Not doing something is also making a decision, because either way, they all have consequences, right? So if you fully understand what that is, then understand. I'm going to give you an example because that's how I work. That's how I think. You're in a situation, they raised your rent. They raised it to an astronomical amount. You can't afford that anymore, at least based on your present situation, right? You could either move. It costs money to move. You don't really have that. And most of we're in these times right now, and this is really happening. If you want to stay in your area, you're priced out because you're priced out of your area. You can't live here, here where you are, there, y'all get what I mean. You can't live there anymore. If you continue to stay in your current place, you now have to work harder. You got to get some extra money up, right? It's doable, but, and if you just sit there and just keep contemplating it, a decision is made that way as well. Usually in the form of a new lease. If you don't sign a lease, they'll put you on month to month. If you just keep paying the rent, they end up paying more anyway. So there's a consequence. Either way, there's a consequence. You get my point? So indecision is still a decision, right? If you're placed in a very real life, mundane type of situation like that, and you can't or you won't make a decision because you keep going through your tarot cards, you keep reaching out to your spiritual coach because you're not unsure. You thought this was who you, and I'm using a somewhat real life example actually now that I'm thinking further into it, but you're reaching out to other people in the spiritual community who do divinatory work, and this is going on for days and you're not making a decision. Okay, I think you're doing too much. You know what you can and will, or what you're willing to accept and what you're not. Only you can make that decision because only you will be living through those consequences. I'm not saying you can't do a reading for yourself or get someone else to do it to consult, but I'm saying you need to make your decision. And you can't sit here and go back and forth about this and make this, put it off onto magic, because once you're doing that, a funny thing happens. You don't like the answer you get there, so then you seek in a different path, a different person or yourself. Now you're trying to do a reading. Now you're trying to do other type of practices to figure out what's the real thing I should be able to do. Because, that has nothing to do with you doing too much magic. Technically, that's you just not trusting yourself, again, and making a decision. But you could be relying too much on divinatory practices just to navigate life, if that makes sense. So I think the measurement for that is if you get to the point where you feel like you literally can't make a decision unless you go to your cards or wherever your source is, uh, for divination, whatever the tool that you use or person. Yeah, that might be a sign that you're doing too much. That might be if you just feel like every decision has to be consulted about. I would be concerned about that. Um, Spells, same difference. Everything you do in life, every little bump, bruise to your ego, there's a spell. You're trying to hex somebody or you're trying to put somebody in a jar. You're doing too much. You're doing too much. Um, Y'all know that sometimes people just living their lives and they don't even see you. You right in front of them, they don't see you because they're so involved with their own stuff. They don't see you. And that's not okay because everybody wants to be seen, but that's just reality. People are going through stuff and they don't see you. So you're in their path. They don't see you. So, of course, they're going to bump you. And I mean that metaphorically speaking. So, guess what? You have an option to understand, have compassion for people who even, accept your bumps and bruises and just keep it pushing, and you be mindful that you're not repeating that, on your path. Everybody's not intentionally out to hurt you, especially people who don't even practice magic. Like, chill with, I see a lot of stuff about that sort of stuff. You don't have to get back everybody. You don't have to seek revenge. That's too much energy. That's a lot of energy. And then your list grows because, if you're open to that, then you'll find that a lot of people start to piss you off and you'll start wanting to get all of them back, get revenge, magically speaking, on all of them. So that might be too much. That might be too much. Also, if you've already done the work, because a lot of times people can agree with what I just said, but here's where it gets a little bit more personal. You've already done the work to get revenge or to get back at somebody, but it's never enough. You want to do something else. Like, it's been a year and this person's still on your mind and you still trying to, get them back. Unbless them, unbless their life. You're doing too much. Why is it still, you haven't even talked to this person in a year and you're still thinking about getting them back and you already did some work on them. You paid somebody else to do something and it's not enough for you. Let it go. Let it go. That's too much. That's too much. But also it goes back to ego. That's your ego. That's your ego running it. That's your fear of not finding somebody else or not finding whatever you thought you had with that person or could have with that person. That's your ignorance of not really trusting in yourself, even though you know enough, obviously, probably about magic and spirituality, to know that you can trust yourself. You trust yourself enough to believe that spell won't work, but you don't trust yourself enough to believe that you can intuitively guide yourself in a totally different direction that's more beneficial to your spirit, to your soul, to your body, to your emotions and your mind, so that you don't have to subject yourself to feeling all these negative feelings that revenge bring, fear, ego, and ignorance. That's the thing. I've lived around for a little bit of time and I have deduced a lot of times those things are at play. Those, and we all have the capability of exhibiting fear, letting our ego run over, and just ignorance. Ignorance in the sense of you're just, whether it's willful ignorance, you do know better, but you choose to still play ignorant, or you really don't understand, you really don't know, you don't have the knowledge of, and you just keep doing certain things without having that the proper knowledge that you need. But that's all I got to say about that. So I hope that this was helpful. Just kind of talking this through. If you've gotten this far in the video, I appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, share. But yeah, I these are the type of conversations I don't feel like we have enough about on one, let's just, if you're a practitioner, even coming to the idea of, well, how can I tell if I'm doing enough or not enough? Well, only you can tell. That's the short answer. And if I'm not doing enough, why is that? Why am I avoiding it? Am I just feeling not very confident? Examine those feelings. If you feel like it's too much and other people in your life are kind of making you feel like maybe you're doing too much, I'm going to ask you to examine that. What's what are you doing? What are they telling you? What are they saying to you? Is it you? Most likely you're just oversharing, you know, and maybe that needs to be nipped in the bud, as opposed to you doing too much. You keep doing what you're doing. Maybe you don't have to keep talking about it. You know, I'm just saying. All right. Well, thanks for watching. This is Mika, Leap Taken. Again, please like, subscribe, share. And as always, thanks again for watching. Bye-bye.